Hello, everybody, and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle and to my latest episode of New Album Spotlight, the show where I put the spotlight on a new album in progressive rock that I think you guys will really enjoy if you have similar tastes in music as me. I like to cover some of the bigger prog releases, but also kind of uncover some cool hidden prog gems through these spotlight episodes, so hopefully you guys are enjoying that. Always positive, always giving solid reviews and pulling out the good of these albums that I think are worthy of your attention and that I just have a lot of love for. So today, I have an album from Jordan Rudess. This is Permission to Fly. Jordan Rudess is the legendary keyboardist of Dream Theater, just a fantastic player, technically brilliant, also at the forefront of technology in music, always doing things with iPads and different like electronic devices and bringing in AI and things like that just to kind of explore in the new technology space. And I really appreciate him for expanding those boundaries, doing something truly progressive in music. But his core favorite music seems to be that classic prog era, the 70s. He has a lot of influence from like Keith Emerson and Rick Wakeman and all of those luminaries, a little bit of Tony Banks. You know, you could tell that he really loves these stalwarts of the progressive rock genre, a little bit of Pink Floyd influence as well. Just a wonderful player, really has a lot of feeling to his playing, but also this just technical wizardry that can go off the charts and do some insane things, and I really like that. So this is a recent album that just came out on Inside Out Music, came out September 6th. He has an interesting lineup for this release. Joe Payne on vocals, who's a really interesting new talent in the scene, who's had some interesting solo work as well in his own projects. Darby Todd is here on drums, a very notable, great drummer who's played on a lot of prog records at this point, and also a couple of fresh faces that I'm not so familiar with on guitar, Steve Dudane, and guest guitar solos from Bastian Martinez as well. So it seems like a really cool lineup. It gives this album more of a band feel than just Jordan doing solo stuff on his own. His previous solo album was 2019's Wired for Madness, which I really enjoyed and just showcased a whole lot of just over-the-top playing and just craziness of his style, but it felt more like just a solo project, just him kind of doing everything himself, whereas this one, it feels more like a cohesive group coming together, playing this music as more of a band effort in a way. So, but of course, all of the crazy instrumental wizardry is full on display. You get some prog bombast even in the opening instrumental section of The Final Threshold, which just kind of jumps right in and puts you right in the fray of his musical mindset, which is a really fun way to bring to come into this album, and I think it's a really effective way. Lots of mysterious and quirky keyboard effects you can find in tracks like Into the Lair. You get a really cool off-kilter driving keyboard solo about 4 minutes into that track. More haunted, dark piano feels in the Haunted Reverie track. Really, his biggest showcase for this technical wizardry that he's known for is on The Alchemist, which to me is kind of the centerpiece of the album, showcasing his skills to the nth degree, all the virtuosity you'd expect from him, playing in quirky styles and proggy time signatures and just doing everything that he's known for in his signature quirky style. I just love it. Eternal is another chance also for Jordan's to show his chops with a bit of a heavier opening lead section, some almost quirky, funky bits to it, maybe a bit of a Gentle Giant feel to this one as well. There's just such a cool breakdown in the middle of the track that's just super tasty, and he even has moments of more sweeping orchestral kind of things, like in the closer Dreamer, or in some of the ballads throughout the album. He has this kind of majestic, sweeping quality to the music where he brings a lot of these orchestrated sounds and some light piano, and the focus is really on the vocals. And really that's one of the highlights and interesting points of the record also is the vocals. Joe Payne is a really standout vocalist, very unique in his style. Definitely an excellent singer, but I could see him being a bit of an acquired taste at the same time for some, because it's a very operatic, very melodramatic in the way he sings. So sometimes I could feel like that could get a bit over the top throughout the record. And there's a lot of these sections where the music kind of takes a step backward and it's really focused on these dramatic choruses and these like really expressive vocal sections. And for someone coming into this expecting just a lot of Dream Theater-esque, virtuoso escapades of piano and keyboard playing, it could be a little bit jarring to notice that there's a lot of ballads, a lot of slower pieces, a lot of moments where the vocals are really the key part of the music. But I think it's effective. I actually enjoy this because it brings a different feel and quality to the music and brings a lot of cool breaks. Sometimes when it's just technical virtuosity over and over and you get hit with the head with these like super fast runs of keyboards and guitars, it can get overwhelming and it can just start to feel a bit samey, that everything's that same quirky, proggy style without any variation. So I think Joe Payne is very well utilized to ground the music a bit more, to bring a bit more gravitas, to bring a different variety and different flavor to what you typically hear from Jordan's work. You get his showcase in the vocals even at the outset in the second half of The Final Threshold. The first half kind of gives you that technical Jordan wizardry. The second half gives Joe Payne a chance to show off his vocal timbre and the sound that you're going to be hearing throughout the record from his vocals. He has some interesting moments in Into the Lair, and I find it interesting how he's able to sing on top of these quirky instrumental moments that Jordan's doing all over the place. You get some beautiful melodies on Haunted Reverie, which is one of my favorite vocal melodies on the album. And even though Alchemist is mostly a showcase for Jordan and all his crazy antics, I think there's a really cool spotlight for vocals as well. Some emotional moments that showcase Joe Payne's vocals. But really it's the ballads where he shines: Embers, Shadow of the Moon, and Footsteps in the Snow. 3 really excellent ballads with beautiful melodies, some great orchestration behind him. He's able to really sing in this style that's really suited to this record. At first I was a little confused about maybe the mixing of the vocals. I don't know if it's the makes or if it's just his style in general. Felt like they were almost too laid back in the mix in some ways. And I think it's just kind of his style. He likes to kind of sit back, and I think we're letting Jordan kind of take the spotlight in a lot of moments. But it's weird because his voice is really expressive and very prominent, but it's just mixed or performed in an interesting way where it doesn't take over the spotlight. It isn't the central figure. And I think that's actually a cool choice, and I've really grown to love it over time. I really think it's interesting, even if it can be a little bit overly dramatic at moments. And I feel like maybe the second half of the record is a bit ballad heavy, perhaps. Once we get through the first 4 tracks, which all have their different moments of intensity and cool virtuosic playing, the second half of the record contains 3 ballads, essentially: Ember, Shadow of the Moon, and Footsteps in the Snow. And then the closer, Dreamer, which is like a sweeping orchestral closer, which showcases a more cinematic style. Really, the only upbeat kind of proggy number there is Eternal, which is excellent. But I kind of find it interesting that he front loads a lot of the kind of more quirkier, proggier bits, and has a lot of the ballads towards the back half of the album, which maybe makes it feel a little bit off balanced, but it's all great stuff and it's all really enjoyable, so I'm not too mad about it. And what I love about Jordan is his experimentation, doing some new sounds. There's a lot of different sound effects and cool little things going on in the mix, and to showcase a bit of his revolutionary side technologically, the track Embers, he partnered with Moises AI apparently to isolate different audio components of the song so that he could let fans kind of take out different audio parts, put in their own, to play on top of it, just play around with this track. And I think that's a really cool, interesting approach in this modern music world where he's kind of embracing the AI more than a lot of other artists are. I think a lot of other artists are kind of afraid of AI and not really wanting AI to interact much with music, but Jordan's using it in such a way that it's able to make for a fun fan experience. And of course, he's a virtuosic player who's playing everything himself, and he showcases his talent to the nth degree. So there's no denying that he's not showcasing his own talents here, and that he's not relying too heavy on the technology aspect to kind of carry him along. He's doing it all himself, and this is his brain and his talent coming to the forefront. So there's no question with this album that Jordan's the main driver, and he's just using technology just to kind of enhance things, to bring some new sounds into the mix, and to introduce some interesting new elements that the fans can enjoy. So all in all, it's a really fun record with a lot of cool playing on it. Plenty of moments for Jordan to shine in his technical wizardry with some quirky stuff. Really fun for classic prog fans. And what's interesting to me is he doesn't just fall back on sounding like Dream Theater here. He really strikes his own sound, and it leans more into the classic prog era than it does in the prog metal zone that Dream Theater is known for. Even though there's moments here and there that showcase some of that Dream Theater-ness, so to speak, in the music. You get a bit of a short riff-driven section in Into the Lair. Eternal has some heavier moments, especially at the outset. It begins with some riffage. But those moments are a little bit far and few between, and it's a lot more melodic and a lot more classic in its approach, even if he introduces a lot of quirky, strange, over-the-top type things into the music. It's never taking away from this really classic style that he really loves, and you can tell is his favorite thing in music, and that he's really expressing throughout the record. So, brilliant record, really fun. Great melodies, great well-written music. And I should mention as well, the lyrics on the album were all written by Jordan's daughter, Ariana. So there's a lot of depth to the lyrics, a lot of interesting things, but delving into some very proggy subject matters, with things like The Alchemist and, Into the Lair. It's very fantasy themed. And I think that fits Jordan's style perfectly. So it's kind of a really cool treat to see him do this work with his daughter, and that they can kind of share this bond together. And I think the lyrics are really well written, and it's a great part of the album. Like I said, just the vocals in general, both the lyrics and the presentation from Joe Payne, bring a whole different edge and a whole different vibe to this record that I think elevates it. Even if his voice could be a bit of an acquired taste, I've acquired it. I think it's really brilliant, and I think he gives an excellent performance here. So that's what I have on this record. I think it's really great, and I think it's well worth anybody's time. Please check it out, especially if you're a Dream Theater fan and are curious about this. But even if you're just a classic prog fan, there's a lot of great stuff on display here that harkens back to the classic era of the genre. And I love it, and I'm glad to recommend it. So thank you guys for joining me here. Hopefully you guys appreciated this review, and I'll hopefully catch you guys in a future episode. Bye, everybody!